Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. You just heard beautiful music from the grand piano master Eric Deutsch. That was from a album that I produced that he recorded some time ago for my first niece Whitney to be born to. An album we called the Baby Sessions, and that song was The Last Supper. And we were looking at the last Moon-Venus conjunction in the evening star sky for like a year's time. So I wish I had had the opportunity to share this with you before that Moon-Venus conjunction aligned on July 19th, 2023, but I did not. So I can share at least these pictures that I took. It was a rather foggy evening here in the Bay. So I didn't get to watch them set with one another. In fact, Venus set into this fog bank pretty soon after I caught this video and this photograph. And I'm just going to go through the days since then so we can look at a few things, because Venus is retrograde right now, which means the end of a long Venus cycle and the beginning of another. And very importantly, it means the last opportunity for you to go see Venus after sunset in the west in the sky with your eyes. Right? Something I'm always encouraging. Astrology is so much more than some symbolic language alone. Astrology is the poetic breath of nature. And when we re-nature our craft by simply reconnecting to the living sky, we will remember the roots of the rules and the proofs of the astrological equations we use. More importantly, we will go experience beauty in the marriage of heaven and earth. And beauty is basically described by Venus, Earth's twin, this beautiful planet that dances between us in the light. Yes. And the way that we experience Venus is either as a morning star rising before the sun, or as an evening star setting after the sun. We experience Venus energetically at times in between when Venus cannot be seen because she is either traveling back behind the sun. Oh, wait, I forgot to say, you are the Earth, my face is the sun. This is a direct Venus Sun conjunction. And when Venus goes behind the sun from our point of view, she disappears like 2 months. And then she shows up as an evening star, and we see Venus getting further and further from the sun and higher as an evening star. So the sun sets and Venus is like climbing up in the sunset west. And then as she's preparing to pass Earth again, which is Venus retrograde, Venus disappears from the evening sky, goes between Earth and the sun, and then reappears as a morning star. So this is called her heliacal set. Her disappearance is the evening star, and then retrograde conjunct the sun, and then her heliacal rise, the first reappearance of Venus on the morning side, which means you have to wake up before sunrise to see that happen, which for me, and I imagine for most of you too, is a trickier thing to do than simply getting out to witness the beauty of a sunset and then see Venus shining, beaming there. I imagine that over the course of the last 7, 8, 9 months, you have seen Venus in the evening sky after sunset time and just have been amazed by how bright and how beautiful Venus is. And perhaps the most beautiful celestial experience are these moon-Venus conjunctions. And this was the last one on July 19th, 2023, with Venus as evening star. This is also, let's bring in a little pointer. This is Regulus, the heart of the lion here, and then Mars. All right. So what we're going to see is over the course of the following days, like here's July 20th and no fog at all. Now Venus here, and the moon has separated from Venus, moving much more quickly, and then found her way to the Mars's side at the time. Yeah, I can just barely, maybe, I doubt this is coming through, but Regulus is right in the center of my circle here, and then Mars. So moon conjunct Mars on July 20th, 23. Let's go to the next day. This is actually the same day. You can see moon conjunct Mars. That's how I know. And I guess I can see the date up here as well. But 9:26 p.m., where this one was at 9:03 p.m. All right, so just in these 23 minutes, the sun sinking further down beneath the western horizon, Venus getting closer to the ground, moon, Mars traveling with, and of course, because the sun is getting lower and lower, the sky gets darker, so we get to see more stars come out. This is an asterism that's often been called and long been called the sickle. These stars I'm tracing because of that sickle shape, but also because back in the day, they tell us when it's time to get the sickles out and harvest, all right? Anyway, there's the moon, Mars, Regulus, the heart of the lion, and Venus here. All right, so that was July 20th. Here's the next day on the 21st. So Venus, Regulus, Mars, the moon, moving away now. It's waxing crescent moon. This one is at 9:21 p.m. I took all these photographs from home in the Bay Area of California. Here is July 22nd. So the moon has distanced herself by more. This is Mars here in the middle of my circle. Venus, you can see, just so bright, beaming. And this was 9:10 p.m. The moon in the waxing sextile, so 60 degrees away from the sun. I'll show you these in charts as well. And then the next day, the moon was quintile the sun, so 72 degrees away from the sun that is set down here. And you can see Venus, right? So day by day, Venus will be getting lower and lower and lower if you go outside at the same time. And then at some point, and actually very soon, and I'll show you when, for where I live here in the Bay Area of California. And then also I'm going to go an equal distance from the equator, but into the southern hemisphere in Melbourne, Australia, to show you why the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere in this particular cycle will have different experiences of Venus's disappearance and then reappearance. And we're going to go to Melbourne, Australia, because it's the headquarters of the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, the real CIA. And I'm happy to be part of a coming series of masterclasses with Yulia Simas from CIA and Ariel Gutman, who wrote the book Venus Star Point, and Adam Gainsberg, who wrote the book The Light of Venus, right? Kind of Venus cycle specialists. Oh, I should say masters, because they do many, many, many things. I will say you can read about this much more at Cosmic Intelligence Agency's website. I made a very short link to help you get there quickly. It's so geminibrett.com/Leo Venus will take you to the CIA's website, where you can learn about this 4-class series, or 3 classes, and kind of a deep open heart meditation. And there will be a series of Sundays with a Wednesday in between. Okay, so Sunday, August 6th, coming soon to a theater called You. The 13th, Wednesday the 16th, and then Sunday the 20th. Of course, everything will be recorded if you can't make it live. We hope you can, though. Our classes are going to be, at least mine, and I know Yulia's will be interactive, and we want to involve attendees who can make it live and look at your Venus star, your Venus cycle, and how it changes over time, your Venus phase. So I hope you'll head over there and learn more. I'll say more about that in a little bit. Right, so most importantly, again, we are in the last days. I'm recording, today is July 25th, 2023, Tuesday, Mars's Day. And with Venus now retrograde, it's our last opportunity, our last days to see Venus as an evening star. Right? So one of the things that Venus retrograde means is the end of a cycle, the beginning of another cycle. Right? So this regeneration, even if you will, like a composting, like taking the energy that we've cultivated in the heart of Venus over the last 19 and a half months, as far as I work with the cycles, and composting that wisdom, that fruit, into rich soil to plant the seeds for the next cycle. The next cycle, which will begin when Venus is between Earth and Sun, like a new moon is between Earth and Sun every 29 and a half days. We have Venus between Earth and Sun every 19 and a half months. And that will happen on August 13th, 2023, in the sign of Leo. One of the things that we'll be discussing in this masterclass series is the Venus star. So Venus and the Sun, they kiss in this way, with Venus between Earth and the Sun 5 times over the course of 8 Earth years, 13 Venus orbits. And so what happens is we have these Venus star points, these retrograde Venus Sun conjunctions, interior Venus conjunctions, in the same sign every 8 years. Venus will go back behind the Sun in the same sign on like a 4 years later, and it's too much to get into here, but these are the kinds of things that we'll be teaching about in this masterclass series. As we have Yulia and Ariel and myself, I think I've only missed one of them since March of 20, what would that have been? 17, I believe. We started then with a Venus Aries star point, and with Venus between Earth and the Sun and Venus behind Earth and the Sun, about every 9 months we've gotten together to do these master classes. In the past, we've done them all back to back to back, and back to back to back to back on the same day. And it's just a lot of information. And so Yulia, in her wisdom, has decided to split this Leo offering into 4 different gatherings, which I think is going to be Brilliant. I mean, in the end, I can promise you it's going to mean more time in total, but less time in one sitting, which is very helpful, right, for our learning. Um, and I'm really excited to present. I'm going to be speaking about the changing of the star. Like, we'll show you what cycle you're born into, but also how the archetypal awakening of the global guidus, as I like to say, is designed in the slow retrogradation of the star. And these star points change signs like every 104 years on average. We're just in the time of a Scorpio star point changing to Libra. They retrograde through the zodiac, and soon an Aries point to Pisces. But when I look at divisions of the zodiac as well, like the 10-degree divisions known as the decans or the faces. This coming August 13th, 2023, Venus Sun conjunction will be the last in the third face, or the last 10 degrees of tropical Leo, a decan that's said to be ruled by the planet Mars. And in 8 years, we'll have a Leo star point, Venus between Earth and the Sun, in the second face of Leo, said to be ruled by Jupiter, right? So that's a pretty interesting shift. There's other things that I'll be looking at, like the shifting of the star point through the terms or the bounds of the zodiac and different planetary associations there. And I'll help you see how you can track this through time. And the question is, have you felt a very significant kind of shifting in your Venusian energy when your Venus star point, your Venus cycle changes signs or changes faces or changes through the bounds? I'll also be presenting the fifth parts, the fifth harmonic chart. It's another thing that we can track the Venus star through. So it's exciting. I think when I say it this way, it might sound advanced, but as I show pretty pictures and some examples, I think it will really land. Ariel Gutman's also going to be speaking, I think, about the history of the changing of the Venus star point through signs. Adam Gainsbourg will be leading a kind of a deep heart meditation. And Yulia Simas is going to help you see which of the phases of Venus you were born to participate with. On one level, we are all of the cycles, we are all of the signs, we are all of the phases, because we are all one. And so when we want to participate more globally and throughout time, then we should be tuning into all of these cycles. And on another level, if you, like me, you, like I, are turning a multiple of 8 years of age between August 13th, 2023 and March of 2025, 19 and a half months later, then you are coming into, as far as the way that I work with the cycles, you are coming into a Venus cycle return. So I will turn 48 in late October, and it's a Venus synodic return for me, my sixth, because they come around every 8 years. And of course, 48 is 8 times 6, right? So I haven't been in it since I turned 40. And I'm really excited and looking forward to it, and also somewhat nervous and whatnot. And so one of the things that I'm doing as I get out evening by evening and watch the sunset and witness where Venus is I'm just kind of saying goodbye to Venus as evening star right now, kind of wrapping up this cycle that we've been in, which was a Capricorn Libra cycle seeded in January of 2022. And now preparing to move into a Leo Gemini cycle as I describe it. I'll be speaking about that at length in these classes coming up. And yeah, preparing to be realigned to the Venusian in this synodic return cycle for me, and helping others like yourself realign. And the most important ways that we can do this are to go outside and see Venus in the living sky with our eyes when she is visible. And so you're in your last days of Venus evening star visibility. Now that will also be determined by where on Earth you reside. Not just because, of course, we have different landscapes. Are you in a valley with high hills near? Are there big trees, whatever? Well, we can hopefully take a walk or a drive and get to a place where we can see the western horizon. Um, what about the weather where you are? Of course, an interesting question given here we are in the middle of northern hemisphere summer, but southern hemisphere winter, right? So, do the clouds allow? But also because of interesting astronomical factors like celestial latitude. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And also how the different signs rise and set on the horizons, which has everything to do with where on Earth you reside. All right, so I was taught this 10-degree rule for Venus. All right, so here's this image, July 19th, 2023. That's the same date as this video we began with Moon conjoined Venus in the evening sky. And you can see at this time Venus and the Sun. And you know what? I think I might. Well, let's look only at maybe the visibles right now, so it's a little bit easier to track. Oh, I don't know that I have that option. Yeah, here. Okay. You can see Venus at this time was about a sign away from the sun, right? The sun's at 27 Cancer and Venus at 28.5 Leo. So a sign is 30 degrees. So 31.5 degrees, okay? Well, I'm just going to go day by day, and let's go at 9 p.m. I'm casting this chart for Richmond, California, where I live. It's the Bay Area of California near Oakland and San Francisco. And I'm 38 degrees north of Earth's equator, okay? It's the same as Athens, Greece, actually. I just experienced what they experienced like 10 hours later. Well, the moon moves very far in 10 hours. So even though I'm at the same latitude as Athens, Greece, because I'm 10 hours behind as far as, well, the Earth spin, right? The daily motion. When I see something like a moon Venus, I'm going to see it in a very different way than they would have experienced it at their sunset 10 hours ahead of me as far as the Earth spins, and I'll see things before folks west of me do. Athens, as much as Athens is 10 hours east of me, Athens is also 14 hours west of me, you know? And the moon on average moves like 13 degrees per day. And this is why we're going to see moon here who's close to Venus. The next day is going to be close to Mars. So let's just go one day later, and there's that moon-Mars conjunction. Did I lose my pictures? Right, so this is this day, moon with Mars, right? And of course, as moon separates from sun, she's going to be waxing and growing, right? But distancing herself from Venus and from Mars as well. All right, so at this day, you can see 28 for the sun and 28 for Venus. They were 31.5 degrees the day before, now 30. All right, here's the next day, and moon separates, and Venus and sun are now less than 30 degrees. You see how that works? So why is it happening? Because actually at this time, Venus through Earth's zodiac is moving slower than the sun is. The sun moves about 1 degree per day, and Venus typically is moving faster than the sun, but not at this time because Venus is preparing to station retrograde. So on this very next day, July 22nd, the moon has distanced herself. She's about sextile 60 degrees from the sun. This is what a sextile moon looks like here. And you can see the moon is much further from Venus, right? And at this time, Venus is now retrograde. All right, and this is the day, this is July 22nd. It was the day that the sun moved into Leo. All right, so now Sun, Mercury, Venus, they're all cohabiting. They're all in the same sign, a sign where the sun is said very much to be at home. All right, let me say again why that is happening. Let's say this is Venus. You are the earth. My face is the sun. About every 19 and a half months, Venus comes between earth and the sun, and she's a morning star. Then she goes back behind the sun and disappears for like 2 to 3 months. Then she reappears as an evening star. She gets high in the evening sky. And then this is Venus retrograde, okay? Because the direct motion through the zodiac, in this current zodiac, is like from the plant to that giant star over there, right? And when Venus retrogrades, you see how it appears like she's moving in the other direction from the giant star towards the plant, right? That's just like why interior planets like Venus or, oh, Mercury retrograde, because they appear to be moving in the opposite order of the zodiac when they are passing Earth by. If Earth, and remember that's you, my face is the sun, wasn't moving itself, then like Venus would be direct half the time and retrograde half the time, except at the times when Venus is coming right at you or right away from you, where she wouldn't look like she's moving against the zodiac at all. That's called stationing retrograde or stationing direct. Okay. Venus is not direct half the time and retrograde half the time because we're looking from a moving planet, right? Like, think about like a car race. If you're in the stands, they appear to be going that way half the time and that way half the time as they're going around their oval. But if you were in a race car, then we're talking about a car passing you by and then how it appears when it's on the other side of the track, if you will, right? That's more the gig with Venus. So here Venus is retrograde because she's passing Earth. Now, a beautiful thing, what that means is that Venus is closest to the Earth, right? Every 19 and a half months, Venus comes to visit us. But as she does, she's transitioning from that evening star to the morning star. When she goes behind the sun, this is Venus direct conjunct the sun and disappears for like 2 months to 3 months. Venus is as far from Earth as possible. It's called apogee. And we can't see her, and it's a long time. Here, it's a very short transition, somewhere between 2 days and like 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer than that, depending on which sign Venus is retrograde conjoining the sun and where on Earth you are looking from. Okay, so we have, I think, the oldest astronomical tables that we are aware of are called the Venus tablets of Ammisaduqa from Babylon from way back in the day. And what they were basically doing is tracking over the course of more than 20 years the days that Venus would disappear and then reappear. So when she sets in the west and then rises again in the east, and then when she later actually sets in the east and a few months later rises in the west, and they're looking from a very similar place on Earth in Babylon to record this disappearance and reappearance of Venus, but based upon what sign she's in, your experience of Venus's setting and risings will change. And when in the same sign, like this Leo conjunction that's coming up, depending on where on Earth you are, this experience will change. Okay. So again, the most important thing I could possibly say here, and I'll say it again, let me retrograde back to this important statement. These are the last days to go out and experience Venus as an evening star. Please do. Receive that light and know that we are into this time now with Venus retrograde of the compost, where the fruits of this 19 and a half month cycle that we are now finishing will be composted into rich soil to plant the seeds for the next cycle, a Capricorn cycle coming into a Leo cycle. Has it been about responsibility and that beautiful connection of, grandmother, elder, and now into Leo and this joyful play. I'm just remembering as I say this that, gosh, one of the first videos I probably posted on this YouTube channel was with Adam Gainsbourg, who will be in this Cosmic Intelligence Agency Masterclass with me. And it was 8 years ago, because we were speaking about the transition from a Capricorn cycle to a Leo cycle. It's happening now. That happens every 8 years. So you could actually, I'm sure, here on YouTube, search Gemini Brett and Adam Gainsbourg, which is spelled like this, Leo Venus star, and you can see that we're really speaking about this archetypal transition. It was a great conversation. And if you type in geminibrett.com/Leo Venus, you will be led to the Cosmic Intelligence Agency's website here, where you can learn much, much more about what we will be presenting and who we are. And you can sign up right now. And I highly recommend you do. It's going to be a really wonderful transmission by some of my favorite astrologers. All right. So Venus retrograde, right, as we see in the chart here on July 22nd. Now, from Earth's point of view, Venus will start slowly moving backwards through our zodiac, right? So 2836, she's going to head back to 27 and 26, okay? The sun never retrogrades. The sun will always be direct. And so at this point, we kind of quickly start closing the phase angle between the two of them, okay? So let's just continue by days. And here we're 28 degrees of phase on the 23rd, and less than 27 on the 24th. Here's today, the 25th. I'll be going outside to see Venus, and maybe she'll show me Mercury at her side today after sunset. Clouds are gone right now. I hope it stays that way and the fog doesn't come in. But look at the phase angle with the sun at 3 degrees. 57 minutes is a degree, okay? Because there's 60 minutes in a degree, just like there's 60 minutes in an hour. So 3 and 28 and a half means now we're at 25 and a half degrees separation, okay? And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And I'm going to go until Venus and the sun are separated by 10 degrees. Now, first of all, look at what I'm here. Remember, in an astrology chart, in a quadrant chart, like a Placidus chart, the horizontal line is the horizon. It is the ground, right? So at 9 p.m. on August 2nd, 2023, locally, I'm certainly not going to see Venus because hopefully you can see that she is already set. All right. So let's turn this thing back by, maybe 30 minutes. And we'll get Venus back up above the ground. Now, the issue is, however, the sun is not that far below the ground. In other words, it's not that dark yet, right? So the deeper the sun sets, the more availability we have to see evening stars, even the very bright Venus, right? As this gap gets closed, Venus is getting closer and closer to the sun and preparing to dive under the beams of the sun to disappear. Now, in the Hellenistic criterion, the beams of the sun extend 15 degrees on either side of the sun. And when planets are within those 15 degrees, you just can't see them. However, Venus is amazingly bright. It's the great guidess, and 10 degrees really is a better rule for Venus, a better general rule. But I'm going to show you in Stellarium astronomy software why it doesn't always work this way. All right, so let's first go to the day where Venus and Sun are about 10 degrees apart, and that will happen on August 6th, 2023. So here, okay, you see the Sun at 14 and a half Leo and Venus at like 24 and a quarter Leo. Okay, so now we've got within 10 degrees, right? So the rule I learned is that that's the day of Venus's disappearance into the Sun's fire. All right, it's going to take from there, about a week or 6 days between that time of Venus's 10 degree separation and this time when Venus aligns between Earth and the Sun for Cazimi, the conjunction. All right, let me go forward by hours here because what we're going to need to do is bring them to the morning side. And now this is August 13th, okay, Sunday, when Venus will align between Earth and Sun in Leo, in the Sun's home, on Sunday, on the day of the Sun, all right? And of course, no Venus for you at that time, because though Venus is so close to Earth, she's between Earth and the Sun, and we're just blinded by the light. So Venus here is going to have to continue in her retrograde motion to separate from the sun. Let's look at this 10-degree rule, and we'll see when Venus is now 10 degrees from the sun on the morning star side. And it looks like here in Richmond, California, in the Bay Area where I live, that's going to happen sometime around August 19th to August 20th. And now we have that 10-degree separation, okay? So let's say what we found, August 6th, retrograde Venus now 10 degrees from the sun, setting as an evening star. August 13th, Venus between Earth and the sun, for this cazimi, as it was called, in the heart of it, the conjunction with the fire, right? And then August 19th, August 20th, Venus and the sun separated, with Venus now rising before the sun as a morning star, right? So I'll be out there every day looking for Venus to reappear as a morning star. So I can go stay at my sister's a little bit, because we have this western view and I can't see the east well at all, but she has an eastern view. It'd just be easier than getting in a car and driving to a place where I could go see Venus, to open my sleepy eyes on the couch and look out the window, you know. All right, so let me go to the wonderful and free Stellarium astronomy software to show you some of this action, and why that 10-degree rule, while it's a great kind of global average, it doesn't always work. All right, so one of the reasons is this yellow curve you see here is the ecliptic. Okay, it's the heart of the zodiac. It's the path of the sun. I mean, really, it's the orbital plane that Earth describes as we orbit the sun every year, right? But from Earth's point of view, that looks like the sun orbiting us, right? And the apparent path of the sun, day by day, is on this ecliptic plane through the constellations of the zodiac, like the twins and the crab and the lion and the priestess, and also through the signs. Constellations and signs are a different thing, tale for another time. But Leo and Virgo and Libra, and you can see even here in Stellarium astronomy software, they're showing us this Libra glyph, but with the priestess constellation, and that can be a serious head scratching thing. I'll just say in brief, the tropical zodiac is Earth's zodiac, and it is not constellational. Let me leave that there for now, okay? So here's Venus, and importantly, you will see that Venus's path takes her north and south of the ecliptic. This is true for the moon as well. Like here's the moon's path in silver and the sun's path in gold. The moon's path crosses the sun's path at the lunar nodes. What lunar nodes are from Earth's point of view, where the paths of the sun and the moon intersect. All planets like Venus have nodes too. Venus's orbital path, because Venus is between Earth and the sun, just seems to surround the sun like this. That's true for Mercury as well. Where other paths, like the path of Mars, are seen going all the way around us, all the way around the zodiac, because Mars is further from Earth than the sun. I have to leave that there for the sake of time as well. But the thing that I can show you with Venus here, and this is cast for my home in Richmond, California, or El Sobrante, California, the Bay Area. Again, I'm 38 degrees north of Earth's equator up here, all right? This is sunset on July 19th, the same date as this video that we began with, moon with Venus, Regulus, and Mars. Here we see moon with Venus, Regulus, the heart of the lion, and Mars, okay? Well, Venus is pretty far from her nodes. Venus's path here is shown in green. So the nodes of Venus at this time were here in the twins, that's tropical Cancer, here in the lion, that's tropical Virgo, and Venus is not at one of her nodes, okay? In this case, she has what is called southern celestial latitude. All right, celestial longitude is zodiac degree, and it's measured from the 0 Aries point opposite here. 0 Libra is 180 degrees opposite 0 Aries, okay? Celestial latitude while longitude is around the ecliptic plane, the path of the sun. And for the most part, since our solar system is relatively flat, the path of the planets too. All right, so longitude is zodiac degree, how far from 0 Aries you are. Latitude is how far north or south of the ecliptic, the path of the sun, a planet, a star, a satellite, whatever it is. Okay, so at this time shown, the moon is north latitude, north of the ecliptic, and Venus is south latitude. All right, when we show them in a chart wheel, like we just show them on the ecliptic, that circle, the circumference of the chart wheel is the ecliptic plane. Like we couldn't show the orbital paths for all the planets. It would be maddening. It would look like all these circles, okay? So what we do is we take parallel lines, perpendicular lines, sorry, and we project the planets to their zodiacal position. So in the moment shown, we would say the moon is here and that Venus is here on the ecliptic, all right? When a planet has southern latitude, it's not really favorable for northern hemisphere visibility, because what I'll show you here will move ahead in time. I'm just letting the sky spin, letting the earth spin beneath our feet, right? And I'm going to show you that Venus look more like this, is going to set before the degree of the zodiac that Venus projects to, all right? So one of the reasons why Venus is actually going to disappear well before this August 6th date of Venus and Sun 10 degrees apart, like we saw in the charts, for Northern Hemisphere observers, one of the reasons is because of Venus's southern latitude. That's favorable for observers in the Southern Hemisphere and not favorable for observers in the Northern Hemisphere. All right, let's just go to August 6th here, when we had seen in the chart that Venus and the Sun are 10 degrees, 10 zodiacal degrees apart. All right, let me get to sunset there. Now, though Venus is 10 degrees away from the Sun in zodiac degrees, and that's this like orange grid you see here, okay? So the Sun is somewhere in the sign of Leo. Let me show you this on the chart. Let's go back to August 6th. And I'll just do like 9 p.m., even though I think Venus had already set at that time. So let's go back an hour. Right now it's right before sunset. And then, let's go by 15 minutes here. The sun sets and Venus is not yet set, right? Because remember, in the chart, this horizontal line is the horizon, it's the ground. All right, well, let's go look at 8:30 p.m. on August 6th in Stellarium Astronomy software. So 2030. And Venus has already set. And the reason why this sky map and this sky map and astrology chart greatly disagree is because this is not showing us Venus's celestial latitude, how far north or south of the ecliptic plane she is. I can ask the software to tell me, and AstroGold astrology software will tell me that Venus has a celestial latitude of almost 7 degrees south of the ecliptic. That's that negative 645, 6¾ degrees south of the ecliptic. That's further than the moon can ever get from the path of the sun. Not many astrologers have actually know this about Venus. It's true for Mercury as well. They can get more than 8 degrees away from the ecliptic plane, and that changes visibility significantly, all right? So Venus's degree, here's this 8:30 p.m. time on August 6, 2023, cast for the same place as this chart. Venus's degree, the degree that she perpendicularly projects to on the sun's path, on the zodiac, on the ecliptic, is above the ground. But Venus herself, and the software here will let me show like Venus's altitude. It's -4.5 degrees. She's below the ground is what that means, right? Positive altitude above the ground, negative altitude below the ground, right? So what madness is this? It's not madness at all. It's just celestial latitude. All right, so the degree Venus projects to is like here on the ecliptic plane, but Venus considering her latitude as well, because her orbital path is not the same as the sun's. It's shown here in green, and she's well south of the ecliptic at this time. And again, in the northern hemisphere, southern latitude is like certainly not favored for visibility, because when a planet has southern latitude like this, it will both rise later than the degree it projects to, and it will set before the degree it projects to. So it's like Venus spends less time above the ground than the chart would suggest. All right, and we're going to see how the opposite is true in the southern hemisphere, but let's just take this a little further. So I mean, intriguingly, here's this August 6th, this is this 10-degree separation. Like, that's the rule I was taught. This is Venus's heliacal set. And then what I did is I went and watched the sky a lot, and I was like, that's not what I just experienced, and it's different in every cycle. And then Venus will start teaching you how the thing works. And I can show you here using software, but you got to get outside if you really want to experience this thing. Even though Venus, the degree that she projects to here, is 10 degrees from the sun, in my location, that day where zodiacally they have this 10-degree thing, the rule I was taught for Venus's disappearance, they're actually setting at the same time, which by the way is called a Paran, co-setting in this case. And obviously I'm not going to see that, because it's going to be a lot more like this, right? Because the sun is bright, so the sun is setting, like we're not going to see Venus set at all, right? So I'm going to have to actually go and rewind some days before this. Oops, I have no idea what just happened there. And then let's go to, I don't know, 8:30 p.m. Maybe this, I mean, Venus is just so bright that I probably will be able to see her on this day. That's just 5 days from now, on July 30th. Here's the next day at 8:30, the next day, and the next day. You can see Stellarium astronomy software is just showing us Venus get dimmer and dimmer. Like the zoom lens will help, right? Like a telescope would help or whatever. But here in like August 3rd, she's gone. And I don't know, maybe at 8:15, no, gone, right? So Stellarium astronomy software is suggesting that for where I live in the Bay Area of California, August 2nd will be my last opportunity to see Venus. Let me see that day on the screen here. Here's the August 2nd, and Venus and the sun are like more than 15 degrees apart, right? I mean, maybe this is one of the reasons why you use a 15-degree rule, because if you also consider Venus's southern latitude, that actually is her setting where I live. But at other times, and in other signs, in other times of the year, she'll have northern latitude, which is favorable for northern hemisphere experience. Okay. The last thing I'll share before we go, well, you know what, let's go first to the southern hemisphere. And the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, who will be transmitting a masterclass on Venus cycles, which I'm very honored to be a part of, along with Yulia Simas of the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, Ariel Gutman, who wrote the wonderful book Venus Star Point, Adam Gainsberg, who wrote the wonderful book The Light of Venus. We are gathering over the course of these 4 sessions to share deep Venus transmission. And the Cosmic Intelligence Agency is headquartered in Melbourne, Australia, which amazingly, check it out, here in the Bay Area. And like I said, Athens, Greece is the same, and Ariel Gutman actually lives in Greece now. All right, let me just show you. If I go to Athens, here's where I am, 38 degrees north terrestrial latitude. Okay, 38 degrees north of the equator. Here's Athens, Greece. 38 north. All right, let me go to Melbourne in Australia. 38 south. Right? So in this sense, there's not only like seasonal opposition, of course, here in August, it's northern hemisphere summer, and in Australia winter, southern hemisphere winter, right? We're also going to look at the western sky, see the sky spins in the opposite direction than it does in the northern hemisphere in an amazing way. But here's Venus, and see, her southern latitude actually offers favorable observability for southern hemisphere folks. All right. The other thing, and we'll really be able to note this again, I'll encourage you to like really look before I go back to California, but maybe you can see that the zodiac here, it's taking a steeper angle into the horizon. All right. So let me just show you on my hand. Let's say like Venus is my middle finger. No, not Venus. My ring finger, pinky nail. Okay. And let's say the sun, like Venus is there and the sun is here at the heel of my palm. If they are addressing the horizon like this, then you get sunset and then Venus set. But some signs, the old terms, by the way, are the straight and the crooked signs. Crooked signs, even when the planet's just as far from the sun, they're going to address the horizon like this. And so in this case, Venus would set at a closer time to the sun because the sign sets that way rather than this way. Hope you can see that. And when you go around the Earth, the way that the signs rise and set will shift. So that's the other very important key for the visibility and the experience of these celestial phenomena like Venus's heliacal set or Venus's heliacal rise. It has to do with how far from the ecliptic, north or south latitude, celestial latitude, as we've seen, but also like how the sign set based upon where on Earth you are looking from. And it's a whole bunch of complex and amazing, and as far as I'm concerned, elegant and beautiful astronomical awesome sauce. But the whole thing can be completely mind-blowing, and it's helpful to learn zodiac rules like 10 degrees, which is what I learned. But then the skies proved to me that it doesn't always work that way, which is actually why I have come to conform to one of the ways that Ariel Gutman works with the cycle. When I first presented with this crew at the Cosmic Intelligence Agency for the Aries Venus star point in March, was it April? No, March of 2017. I was like, well, this is when I do it. And then it was in that cycle where, because Ariel made some really good arguments, but most importantly, because the sky showed me that rule is not going to work. It is a good global average, this 10-degree rule, and I need to use it on the other side of the cycle, as I'll explain in the coming class. I now just work with the precise because our maths allow us to. Earth, Venus, Sun alignment, which will be August 13th. All right, so let's look in Melbourne, Australia here. This is this date, August 3rd, where Venus is going to disappear for the Northern Hemisphere. Now look on the clock, I'm at 6 p.m., right? Instead of 8:30, 9 p.m. that we were looking for sunset in California. Why? Because it's winter in Australia, right? So the sun sets earlier in the day. But because Leo sets more straight there in Melbourne, and because of Venus's extreme southern latitude, like here's the August 6th date. That's that 10-degree that we found, right? Lots of Venus still. All right, August 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I mean, even here, this is probably more like when Venus is going to disappear in Melbourne, maybe the 11th. Now dig that, because on the 13th, Venus and the sun can join, all right? So that's August 13th at 4:15 a.m. Pacific time. If we head over to Melbourne, Australia, that Venus-Sun conjunction is at 9:15 p.m. on the 13th, okay? So let's even go there. Actually, I'm going to stay at 6 p.m. and even earlier. I mean, there is some very slight chance that Venus would be seen here as an evening star, even just hours before conjoining the sun. And the reason why is, though our chart shows Venus and sun right on top of each other, in this particular star point, the cycle of Venus is quite far from the sun during their conjunction, again, because Venus has her own orbital path, which takes her north and south of the ecliptic, the path of the sun. And so here during the conjunction, Venus has a celestial long latitude of almost 8 degrees south, 7 degrees and 40 minutes, 7 and 2/3 degrees this way, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so in the northern hemisphere, it's like very unfavorable for Venus visible observability in this particular Leo cycle. In the southern hemisphere, the opposite is true. And certainly here, like in August 11th, let's bring the atmosphere back in Stellarium software. Like, this is a time where, for those with eyes to see, and if clouds allow, and a decent view of the northwestern horizon, like, I imagine Venus is going to be very visible, certainly on August 10th. And if we go back to like August 10th here, I mean, Venus is less than 5 degrees away from the sun. Like, I was taught that that was impossible. And the sky has taught me something different. This is one of the gazillion reasons why we students of the stars should go out and be with them. All right. Let's get Venus on the other side of the sun. So this 13th is the conjunction. Here's like the 15th, 2 days later, only 3 degrees away, right? But I mean, by the time we get to sunrise in Melbourne, Australia, it will be August 16th. And let's see Venus above the horizon. Well, she's rising right with the sun, so not visible, right? Oh, maybe not. Let's bring in this altitude list here. So the sun and Venus, okay? And I'm just going to get Venus above the horizon. Here, Venus, though she looks to be 9 degrees below the horizon, she's actually 1 degree above the horizon in altitude. All right, so let's cast this time in Stellarium astronomy software. It's August 16th, 6:30 a.m. And we're going to have to go look east. And look at that. Venus, like, I'm sure, clouds allowing, if you go and look at the eastern horizon at this time in Melbourne, Australia on August 16th, look, maybe even August 15th. I think so. Here's August 14th. Here's August 13th. Okay, check this out. Let's do this one in the chart. Like, Venus is still on the evening star side of the sun. The whole chart spins like this, okay? So when Venus is in a later degree of the zodiac, the sun is going to rise first, says the chart. Au contraire, all right? Let's actually look at this. Here's their altitude, sun's altitude, and Venus's altitude. Let's put Venus up above the ground here, just going by 15 minutes. And now Venus actually has a positive altitude here at 6:45 a.m. And the sun is 5 degrees down beneath the ground. I mean, that's getting pretty light in the dawn light. Let's say 6:45 on August. So this is a day before the Venus-Sun conjunction. It's a day when in the chart we would call this Venus evening star. And this is going to be a visible morning star Venus in Australia. Okay. So Australia in the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, rooted in Melbourne, Australia, though we have agents across the world, like in Athens, Greece, and here in California, for example. In Melbourne, it's like Venus isn't going to disappear at all. And if you look at the Venus tablets of Emma Suduka, there's a decent article, by the way, at Wikipedia about that. So I can just go Venus tablets of Emma Suduka. You will see there that Oh, interpretation. Where is it going? Usually, it used to be that they would actually show me what the tablet had to say. Is that not happening anymore? Wow. Well, that's a drag. So let's go somewhere else. Full text in this internet archive. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do it right now. I'll tell you what, I'll show it in my presentation coming up here at the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. A fast way to get to this page so you can sign up today is geminibrett.com/Leo Venus. All right, just because it's going to be easier for you to type. But basically, that's going to bring you to the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. You could also, I'm sure, type cosmicintelligenceagency.com, and there you go. It's right there at the top of the page. So maybe that's easier for you. Either way. In the Venus tablet of Amasuduka, whereas I described before, they're tracking over this period of a couple decades plus Venus's date of disappearance as an evening star, and then reappearance as a morning star. And then later her disappearance as a morning star and reappearance as an evening star. And the first time I read it, I was like, what? Like, what's going on here? Because sometimes it's like she disappears for 18 days when retrograde, setting as an evening star, reappearing 18 days later as a morning star. And other times of the cycle, it's 2 days. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what? And that's before I learned about the importance of celestial latitude, a planet's distance from the ecliptic, which the sky taught me. And then thanks to Stellarium astronomy software, which has really helped me integrate a lot of the weirdness that I'm experiencing out there and like connect it to the astrology chart, right? And then also, and I learned this later and from Mercury about the importance of these straight and crooked signs. So let's look at that also. So intriguingly, and Yulia, if you're hearing this, and I'll write to you and talk to you about it otherwise, just in case you're not, I encourage you to go see evening star Venus as a morning star on the morning of August 13th in Melbourne. All right. And then just the days after, like Venus is just, see how she's just shooting up in the sky before sunrise, right? She's retrograde. That's August 25th. Let's go there here in the chart. Right now you can see, I mean, Venus is separated by 17 degrees. Let's do the 15 degrees. That's like the Hellenistic criterion for under the beams. It's like around here on August 24th. Like that definitely works, but then some. And does it work in California? All right. So I want you to see in this case, it's not really about the angle of Leo rising. With Leo setting was a big deal from the northern to the southern hemisphere. But here, like it's kind of crooked, if you will, coming into the horizon. But Venus's latitude, just how far she is from the ecliptic plane because of her orbital path. Like at this time on August 24th, Venus is latitude 8 degrees south of the ecliptic plane. And in the southern hemisphere, that means higher in the sky than the zodiac degree that Venus projects to, okay? Well, the opposite is true in the northern hemisphere. So let's head back to Richmond, California here where I live. I'm gonna have to head to the morning as well. So this is August 23rd at like 6 a.m. And we're gonna see Venus at that time, it seems. Okay, so let me relocate this thing to Richmond. Oh golly, that's the issue with Richmond. Everywhere has Richmonds. Okay, so August 24th, and I'm going to bring this back into the morning side. Let's just go there. So I'm at 5:45 a.m. on August 23rd. And I mean, it seems to me like we'll definitely be able to see Venus at that time. Again, this is like she's 15 plus degrees from the sun. All right. But let's do the 10-degree rule. about there, really here in August 20th, and maybe not. And again, this is like Venus's southern latitude. Now, the way that Leo rises in the northern hemisphere versus the way that Leo sets is helping. But in this case, for the northern hemisphere, the 10-degree rule will not be enough. And in the southern hemisphere, it's way too much for this particular cycle. I like to work like the Babylonians did back in this Venus tablet of Amasuduka. It's one of the tablets from the ancient Babylonian astronomical records. I like to go say goodbye to Venus when she is setting, and then hello when she's rising. And the setting is much easier for me. I'm very blessed in our house now to have a view of like the western horizon and sunset every day of the year. It's quite a gift. Very lucky and grateful. But we don't have the east. So there's like a little place where I can go creep and be between a couple neighbors' houses over here. Yeah, it's a little sketchy at 5 a.m, right? So I get in the car and I drive to this reservoir, but that's like wake up at like 4 and gear up, it's like tricky, right? So it's helpful to have some awareness, astronomical awareness, and wonderful tools like Stellarium astronomy software to help me know that I might as well wait a few more days after the 10-degree thing. In this particular Leo cycle, the opposite will be true in the Aries cycle, which follows in 2025. In fact, at that time, because of amazing conditions that I'm sure I'll be sharing a lot about then, I think we can get an astronomer in Russia to take pictures of Venus as a morning star while astronomers in Seattle take pictures of Venus as a evening star in the same moment. And I'm hoping I can find some people to do that, because that will just shatter all sorts of things that are taught about these cycles. But when we teach these cycles, we need to teach kind of like, an average happening and global rules. And I do feel that this 10-degree rule is really good for like a global experience when I average the northern, southern hemisphere, etc. Yeah. But it's good to know, think globally, act locally, right? So again, as I've said 7 times now, most importantly, get out there and go give your heart to Venus as an evening star in these next days. Catch her while you can. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you got more time than we do here north of Earth's equator. And then sometime later in August, maybe early September, if you want a sure bet, go welcome Venus as in morning star. Say hello. And it's brilliant that I ended up here quite accidentally, actually, on August 20th on Sunday. When I do actually think, here's that image for where I live in Stellarium. Like, I think I have a pretty good shot of seeing Venus as a morning star on this day. But that's actually the day that I will be presenting at Cosmic Intelligence Agency. So brilliant. And Yulia, who's in Melbourne, Australia, for reasons I had shown, let's just go back there one more time and do Melbourne. Gonna have to be able to spell if I want to do that. On August 13th in the morning, even though Venus literally is on the evening star side of the sun, it is likely that here around 7 a.m., Yulia on August 13th could see Venus as a morning star, even though she's on the evening star of the sun, side of the sun. What? And that's the day Yulia is going to present, because she very graciously is allowing us to switch cycle 2 here and 4, because I have this other thing that I have to do on the 13th. So Yulia, thank you for that. Yulia, thank you for inviting me once again to present at Cosmic Intelligence Agency for Venus Star Point. They've been so fun, this series of classes we've done over time. You can find the whole series, by the way, at Cosmic Intelligence Agency's website, cosmicintelligenceagency.com, to go there They offer, the agents around the world just offer so much amazing astrology. It's a wonderful place to be in, a wonderful community. GeminiBrett.com is where you can find me. If you want to know more about what I do or book a reading or anything like that. This fractal timing class, by the way, has ended, but it's all available by recording if you want to check that out. And I hope that you've learned a thing or two here. And most importantly, I hope that you have been inspired to get outside and to engage with evening star Venus in the sunset west for the last time. All right. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. And I hope to see you at the coming series of Venus Star classes at the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, beginning with Ariel Gutman, the great Ariel Gutman's transmission on August 6th, 2023, coming soon to a theater called you. Until then, my friends, I will see you in space.